In the classic work of literature, Dante's Inferno, the author Dante is given a tour of the 9 rings of hell, each ring holding people guilty of different sins. In the second ring resides those driven by lust, buffeted back and forth by winds of ever-changing desire. The 5th ring, home of the wrathful, is a swamp filled with eternal strife as the murky waters slowly swallow those locked in eternal violence. While the 9th and last ring is a frozen hellscape. Here is the home of traitors, those that have betrayed their nations, their allies, and their friends, which sounds like an appropriate home for a certain cold-hearted hellhound. If you don't know who the VTuber Cinder is, in brief, she is a hellhound VTuber who was for a time considered one of the sweetest and kindest VTubers in all the community, a beacon of love and friendship and symbol of good vibes. With almost 400,000 followers on Twitch, she was one of the biggest indie VTuber streamers out there. She was known for being funny, entertaining, having a large friend group that encompassed numerous other VTubers, especially her closest friends, the girly pops. But that was who she was before something happened, before a tweet came out. A tweet that would rock the VTuber world to its core and reveal something we never knew about Cinder. Shortly after midnight on the 26th of April, Nanoless, a VTuber and art streamer, released a tweet that immediately got the attention of everyone who saw it, as it addressed her relationship with someone very close to her and her career, Cinder. Attached to the tweet was a simple Google document, one that was ominously titled, "Terminating My Work with Cinder." This was a surprising title, as Nano was known as the primary artist for all of Cinder's live 2D models, and much, if not all, of her Gamer Subs merch. Many people were obviously curious about why Nano was ending her work with Cinder. Initial speculation guessed that it was due to sickness or maybe overworking. However, the details given in the document were far more disturbing than anyone could have imagined. Within the 26-page Google document, Nano recorded several conversations that she had with Cinder, and more often, Cinder's manager, Redacted MP3, aka Red. In these conversations, Nano alleges that Red, and by extension Cinder, regularly attempted to coerce and manipulate her into becoming an exclusive artist for Cinder and her models and art productions. Most VTuber model artists are independent. They primarily work through commissions and contracts for a VTuber for a short period of time, usually to create a single new model or art piece for their stream or new merchandise, but very few work exclusively for a single VTuber, with the exceptions of those that work for companies like VShojo or Hololive. This makes sense, as the more people that use your models, the more likely others are to see your art and more likely to hire you for a commission themselves, thus creating more demand for your services. But if someone were to provide a lucrative enough contract, then many artists would consider joining an exclusive deal, making only art for them and no one else. This seemed to be the goal of Red and Cinder in their conversations with Nano. Nano had been making models for Cinder since her 1.0 model debut way back on June 25th of 2022, and Nano's art style was synonymous with Cinder's appearance and model designs. So much so that Cinder has few if any models and art not made by Nano, which was unusual for most VTubers who usually have art and models made by a multitude of artists. Had the document only shown Cinder and Red attempting to cajole Nano into becoming their own exclusive artist, without an actual contract mind you, then perhaps the document would not have amounted to much. Failure to treat their artists well would have only led to a slap on the snout and a wagging of the community finger, and that would have all there been. But that was not all there was. Within the document, Nano included DMs between herself and Red, where Red specifically identifies other streamers and VTubers that Nano is doing business with and making models for. In these conversations, Red insists that she terminate her commission with them to make room for Cinder models instead. In these DMs, Red and Cinder appear to use a mixture of threats of ending business with Nano, guilt-tripping, and even false support to slowly convince her to cancel her connections with the other censored VTubers. One by one, they succeeded in cutting her off from her other clients and securing her full attention on Cinder's projects alone. All the while, constantly repeating that what they were doing was all just business. This shocked the community. The idea that Cinder was actively sabotaging other VTubers to gatekeep their access to her primary artist was almost unbelievable. But what was more shocking And what added insult to injury was that the VTubers that Red was particularly trying to blacklist from Nano's workload were, by majority, Cinder's own friends. Before you could even finish Nano's document, another tweet came out a mere 6 minutes later that exposed far more than Nano was willing to on her own. In Nano's document, all of the VTubers that Red and Cinder were attempting to sabotage were blacked out, Nano not wanting to infringe upon anyone's privacy. But though she did not include them in her own tweet, she did contact them and inform them of the situation. This led to some of them making their own Google documents, the first of which was Bao the Whale. Bao had made announcements as far back as March of 2024 about commissioning Nano to make a new model for her, and even announced it as part of her upcoming subathon. But this excitement that she had for the new model was soon dashed when she was told by Nano that she would have to cancel it due to health and mental stress issues. What Nano didn't tell Bao, though, was that her health and mental stress issues were Red and Cinder. A member of Cinder's friend group, the Girly Pops, and a well-known friend of Cinder's, it was baffling that the first name to be revealed on Nano's original Google Doc was the streamer Bao. Within the DMs between Red and Nano, Bao was identified by name as someone they did not want her collaborating with on art or models, with Red saying not to work with Bao at all again on models or art. But making things worse, not only did they ask Nano to cut off working with Bao, but they also dragged Nano into personal drama between the friends regarding their video editors to justify the blacklisting. Red claims that Bao poached Cinder's video editors from them, first Kaiser, their YouTube editor, and second, Sakamore, who worked on the recent Cinder Tricky and Vienna video, Boss Rush. Bao, though, in her doc, objects to this accusation and proves it untrue. She first spoke to Kaiser, who merely accepted a commission from her for YouTube edits, nothing more than that, and no mention of Cinder. While Sacramore came to her, seeking an exclusive deal so that he could focus on his own personal projects and not be hounded for commission inquiries. Inquiries that came about from his involvement with the Boss Rush video and others, which piqued the interest of other VTubers seeking to hire him. He even wanted his name to be removed from Bao's video credits to preserve his peace. But Red interpreted these hires, particularly Bao's exclusive deals with SAG, as a blocking move meant to steal from Cinder. Red and Cinder seemed to have an issue with Bao, believing that she was getting in their way and stealing from them, the model commissions from Nano and the YouTube editors being examples. Unable to do much about the YouTube editors, Red and Cinder sought instead to remove Bao from slowing their progress of their own projects that involved Nano. For Nano's part, she was reluctant to cancel on Bao. She didn't want to do it, and did her best to argue against it. But Red applied the screws as hard as he could, threatening delays in work offers from Cinder. Though despite calling this all business talk, it became quite personal. Nano, feeling bad for not completing Bao's commission, suggested she give it to her for free, to which Red replied that she shouldn't offer it for free, maybe half price, if she starts shit. Red did not miss a chance to belittle Bao to Nano either, even mocking a previous music video released by Bao, calling it in his words, a flop. And contrasting it with the recent success of Cinder's newest music videos. To say that Bao was devastated by this revelation is an understatement.
I just remember seeing the screenshots and I just remember crying my eyes out on the floor.
The firestorm around Cinder erupted again a little under 7 hours after Bao had released her tweet, as yet another tweet came out that also exposed Cinder's private behavior, but from a different angle. Rain Does Stuff, a streamer, voice actor, and musician, with 9,000 subscribers on YouTube, shared his own personal experiences with Cinder. Previously, before she became the hellhound VTuber she is today, Cinder was originally known on YouTube as Tashi MP3, a successful ASMR girlfriend role player with 151,000 followers. It was in this persona that she met Rain. The details of their interaction were not so much of a business or work relationship, but instead rather personal. Instead of evidence of her conspiring against him, as she and Red had against Bao, Rain had evidence of other duplicitous behavior. After the two of them met, Rain claims that Cinder very quickly began to flirt with him, engaging in a very mature exchange of DMs. This was even though she already had a boyfriend that was soon revealed to be her own manager, Red. Though Cinder's intimate connection with her manager was not too much of a shock, as it was long believed that Red was more than just her manager, just never confirmed. It could not have been confirmed in a worse way, as it was revealed that she had willingly cheated on him in the past. Again, her behavior in private left the public community shocked. Another piece of Cinder's personality mask had been pulled away. 3 times now she had been hit with Google Docs, and 3 times shown to be duplicitous and treacherous in her personal dealings. But it would not stop there. The next document to make impact was only 4 hours away. Spite, the Cerberus VTuber, is someone who has often been compared to Cinder, and it's obvious to see why. 2 hellhound VTubers, both with fire motifs and a leather-clad fashion sense. People are obviously going to draw parallels. But Spite has always claimed that the similarities between the two are coincidental. But these coincidences did not stop Cinder and Red from seeing her as a threat. And this perceived threat was addressed when Spite released her own Google Doc. Spite for years had received continual messages on YouTube videos and Twitch VODs comparing her to Cinder in a negative fashion and harassing her. And looking at Nano's Google document, it appears that Red and Cinder may have been the source of that negativity in the first place. According to Spite, it is obvious that Red is referring to her when he refers to a VTuber that uses fire emojis all the time and was a hellhound that was imitating Cinder. Spite spends the document discrediting these claims, referencing tweets, personal DMs, and other details showing that many of these so-called imitations of Cinder, like her outfit and style, were first done by Spite and not influenced by Cinder. And additionally, Spite's citations hint that more than once, Cinder may have copied her rather than the reverse. Just another example of Cinder and Red attacking a VTuber that was not an actual threat to them due to suspicion and paranoia. After all these doc drops, the toll and damage done to Cinder was obvious. She had already started to bleed followers and subscriptions, but this was not the end, as one more document was soon to come out. This one, perhaps the most damaging of them all. As the afternoon of the 26th drew to a close, one final Google document dropped, this time by one of the biggest VTubers around, Silvervale. With 2 of the 3 VTubers identified as Bao and Spite, it was another shock that Silvervale, one of the most beloved streamers out there, was the 3rd VTuber to be targeted by Cinder and Red for sabotage. Silver is mentioned multiple times among the DMs to Nano as someone that Red and Cinder wanted blacklisted from her art and commissions, pushing Nano to not make any new models, outfits with Silvervale again, and just as with Bao, to not work with Silver at all again, models or art. Blocking Silver from commissioning Nano again was so important to Cinder that she even DM'd Nano herself to press the issue, explaining that the main problem was the constant comparison between herself and Silver, saying she was just trying to cut off the drama around the situation. Oh, come on! This exposed a far deeper issue between the 2 VTubers, which Silver went into detail about in the document. For years, Cinder had been pressing Silver for collabs, art, and merchandise deals, as well as other collaborations that would tie the 2 Wolf Girl VTubers together. This constant pursuit was something that pushed Silver to actively avoid Cinder whenever she could, feeling hunted and hounded by her.
Like, I've always been a little uncomfortable, but I had no idea. And I could never say anything, and like, I always felt so bad, and you're like, oh, I love her. Oh, she's so much like you, you should collab, and like, I can't say I could never come out and say, no, sorry, she just wants to use me. Like, then that would explode and I would seem like the bad person because I didn't want to do it. Like, and I just had to deal with that for so long.
This hounding even extended to Twitter when Cinder regularly associated herself with Silver, with photo opportunities, and even a ship tag that Cinder made herself. This continual refusal of collabs may have been one of the prime reasons that Red pushed Nano so hard to stop working on a new live 2D model for Silver. This new model was going to be released for Silver's birthday celebration, but Nano cancelled it at the last minute to Silver's dismay. But just as with Bao, Nano gave Silver the excuse of health and stress as the reasons behind the cancellation of her new model. This was the last of the Google documents to be dropped about Cinder and her sabotage of other VTubers. Altogether, Cinder had been exposed for manipulation of Nanoless, betrayal of her friend Bao, being unfaithful with Rain, harassing Spite, and acting with malicious intent against Silvervale. Her image of the kind, gentle, loving VTuber lay in burning ruins. A great deal of damage had been done to Cinder. Yet, the firestorm was not done burning, as the last two remaining VTubers that had been hidden in the Nanoless DMs were revealed to be Cottontail VA and Shy Lily, also both friends of Cinder's, who she and Red attempted to blacklist from Nano's work and commissions. Once fully revealed, Cinder's betrayal enraged thousands of VTuber fans within the community, and they, along with their Oshis, almost unanimously condemned her, while almost unanimously pouring out support and love for Nano, Bao, and Cinder's other victims. In response to this, the Cinder brand went into emergency response mode. Her followership was bleeding out and her reputation was in tatters, and her Discord erupted into chaos, so much so that she and her mods locked it down to stop anyone from chatting, and the ban list began to grow exponentially. She had gone from one of the most beloved VTubers to one of the most despised in under 24 hours. To save what she could of her standing in the community, Cinder went into damage control. Before the end of the day, she released a statement officially terminating her employment of Redacted as her manager, and a day later released her own Google document, this document being titled simply, My Apology. And Cinder's apology was mostly that in name only. Most of the Google document shifted all blame from herself to Red, as she took no responsibility for what was done other than her failing to check on Red's actions properly and behaving badly with Rain. Though at the end of it, she did give an apology to each person who spoke grievances, including Vamp Peaches VT, an old acquaintance of Cinder's from the Tashi days, who also expressed on Twitter her own negative interactions with Cinder, only strengthening the new perception that Cinder was someone not to be trusted. With that, it was up to the community to decide if the apology was sufficient and worthy of an acceptance. And BuffPup, another of Cinder's betrayed friends, summed up the community's response to Cinder's apology document very succinctly. The apology was not accepted. If anything, the apology made things worse. With Cinder's full denial of knowledge of the situation, she made herself look even more deceptive than before.
To say I'm disappointed is like such a light word. Fucking stupid, dude. I can't believe it. I'm just shocked. If she would have said, I'm sorry, I fucked up, I'll see you guys later, that would have been better than what I fucking saw. Where 3/4 of it is just explaining her side, aka PR move. And then the first I'm sorry is 5 pages down. It's fucking pathetic.
Every one of her friends agreed that it was impossible for Cinder to not know what Red was doing, as they all believed them to be extremely close to one another. In fact, it was well known among their friends that the two of them spoke almost always as one unit, and intimately knew the other's actions.
I personally have seen her at parties where Red has literally said, oh, we gotta be competitive, you know how it is, and then Cinder literally sitting next to him, being like, yeah, you know how it is, and I'm sitting there like, no, I fucking don't know how it is. What are you talking about? So like, for you guys to sit there and literally be like, oh, what she means it though? No, fuck off. I don't want to hear it. I literally don't want to fucking hear it.
Bao particularly took issue with Cinder's apology, as Cinder had known about Nano's canceling on Bao's Live 2D model previously, the girls discussing it in a separate friend chat. Not only did she know, But Cinder also at no time ever told Bao about trying to lock Nano down as an exclusive, nor did she console her as her other friends did for the disappointment she felt. This is despite Cinder's close connection to Bao and Nano, and most likely knowing the actual reason why she was canceling commissions. But despite all the comments and tweets and documents, it was still not enough to satiate the firestorm. More needed to be said, and for VTubers, unfortunately, that meant it needed to be streamed to thousands of viewers to explain the situation clearly. Bao, Lily, Buff, Cotton, and Silver all streamed and discussed the situation and how they felt, and how their interactions with Cinder were all so strange until these DMs came to light. So many times they had been ghosted, or ignored, or spoken ill of, and each time they explained it away as a mere misunderstanding. But now, in light of this new information, those events made so much more sense.
So anyways, yes, I am guilty of dodging a collab, because I simply didn't fucking feel like it. And yes, I am guilty of ghosting 2 messages where she asked for a collab, which, by the way, she also only does when there is something business related. AFK drop, V-card drop, any event, any debut, any announcement, any merch. Then I'm important. Long story short, that was the one message that got everything rolling, because I explained how that's weird, that's cringe and manipulative. If she has a problem, why not come to me? And boy, that's where it started. That's where poor Nano realized that there is more such incidents. She has critical thinking, and she's like, if this is weird, are the others also weird?
Now other VTubers as well who would work with Cinder, such as Numi, began to re-examine their past with her, remembering how she had treated them. They began to see her in a new light, as they understood what she truly valued.
If you guys are a Noomba and you were going to a concert, you probably were able to fill in the blanks with what happened. Very, very close to the date, a week and a half before, when I got told about that. And I think the thing that sucks the most about it was because from her perspective, she was talking about how excited she was, and then it was that same day from him that he said they're not going to do it anymore. And I was super sad, obviously. And Bao, even though she wasn't doing good, immediately said she would fly to New York with me and do the concert with me, and how she's my best friend. But she saw me in a state like that, and even though she was hurting, she put all of that aside just to be there for me, and to be there for me when Cinder couldn't even tell me herself how she felt. And I feel so fucking mad thinking about how she did that for me and to save her for not being able to go, and to find out that she felt that way about my best friend, who has never given me any reason to not think of her as one of the best people I've ever met.
But after so much pain, so much trauma bonding...
We're trauma bonding, guys. We're getting closer because we're witnessing these terrible acts. Oh, that's awesome.
And finally letting it all out to chat and releasing the anger within, things started to settle, and the cinders began to cool. With the firestorm finally over, there was only one question that filled the minds of so many. Why? Why had Cinder done this? What drove her to be like this? What made her mistreat Bao, Lily, and Silver, along with so many other streamers, in such a foul way? Well, I am no psychologist, but I believe I can make some general guesses judging from what I have seen from the documents and from what I have heard from those most affected by her. First and foremost, I believe it is easiest to take on the most obvious reason and cause for behavior. Jealousy. But jealousy of what primarily? Well, success as a VTuber. Primarily, Bao and Lily's success. Lily, who sits at over 1.5 million followers and pulls a regular CCV of 5,000 to 6,000 viewers, is obviously bigger than Cinder, who before the fallout sat just under 400,000 and pulled an average of 3,000 to sometimes 4,000 CCV. This is also true for Bao, who sits around 600,000 followers and often pulls the same number of CCV as Lily, around 5,000 to 6,000. But attached to this envy of numbers and viewership, there are also the other fields that they compete in. When it comes to Lily, she and Cinder share co-ownership with the popular energy drink company Gamersubs, and Cinder and Red felt that Lily got priority and greater attention than Cinder did. This rivalry came from the energy drink flavors that the company distributes for the girls: Pyro Powder for Cinder and Blowhole Blast for Lily. These two flavors being among the best and fastest selling flavors in the company's roster of drink powders. Additionally, they both have regular releases and re-releases of company's signature waifu cups and merchandise. In this area, Lily again overtakes Cinder in sales, but just barely, thus leading to jealousy and animosity towards her as a rival for dominance in the company. As for Bao, outside of the Twitch numbers, the only place the two of them compete greatly would be in music. Though they have collaborated in songs before, Bao is by far the more experienced of the two in making music, having published her own original songs and music covers for over a decade now. Cinder has been slowly developing her own discography with a few originals and covers, the most well-known of which would be her cover of Winter Rain by 6th Century. Many VTubers do covers and music releases, and the market is a hard one to carve out their own niche in, so Cinder most likely saw Bao as a rival in this as well, which is made obvious by Red's comment about Bao's music videos being inferior to Cinder's. As for spite, it mostly seemed to be a direct competition in cornering the hellhound VTuber market, if that is even a thing. This is true for Silvervale too, but when it comes to Silver, I think something more is going on. There's obviously competition between Wolf Girls versus Wolf Girl, and the latter climbing again with Silver at 500,000 followers, thus explaining the constant pursuit of collabs and merchandise deals with her. However, I feel that there is a more deep-seated issue with her. It's not just that Cinder is jealous of Silver, it's more that she was upset that, as Red said, Silver didn't recognize Cinder as an equal. For Silver's part in all this, I don't think she even thought of Cinder as anything other than the constant harassment she gave her. Cinder, however, was obsessed with Silver's recognition. The situation seemed to be less about hating her and more about Cinder being all, "Notice me!" And the fact that Silver did not recognize Cinder nor gave her the attention she wanted was what I believe turned her focus from admiration and desire to cooperate to vengeance and malice. Then comes the methods of that malice. Cinder could have sabotaged her rivals in a variety of ways, ones that would never have needed a third party like Nanoless to be involved. So why did they do that? Why was Nano such a pivotal part of their actions? Well, there's no guarantee that she was the only route that Cinder took. Our former friends have mentioned now other cancellations and commissions and works that seem very suspicious as they look back. But I believe the reason Cinder used Nano was due to her mental fragility, which she attests to herself, and their close supposed friendship. But I believe one of the big overlooked factors are that Cinder and Red seem to believe that they owned Nano's abilities as a 2D modeler, and Red said so in as many words. Both Red and Cinder potentially could have felt that they had rights to Nano's art skills, particularly model making, since she was helped in her artist career by Cinder. Cinder was one of her first big breakthrough models, and in the DMs between Red and Nano, they even claimed to have helped her improve her art skills, saying to her that they were able to find someone to help her with L2D cutting to improve her skills. This would explain a great deal why they focused so heavily on Nano not making models, and only casually included other art from time to time, as well as explaining their obsession to prevent what they called making Nano's models less valuable. Their thought process being that the more people who had Nano's models, the less value they would be. Which is of course nonsense. The more models she made, the more popular she would have become. But of course, the more popular she would have become, the more she would have had commissions from the streamers. And as such, less time she would have had to work on Cinder's models. Additionally, Cinder seemed to want to artificially inflate the special nature of her models by making them exclusive only to her. She treated Nano like a fashion designer, one that made outfits exclusively for her, to see her be made apart from her peers. Exclusive outfits only she could get. But it only made her look better, not the artist that made them, which is actually hindering her growth. Now that we understand why this happened, the only thing to wonder is what will happen next. Is this the end of Cinder? Well, the short answer is no. At the start of all this drama, Cinder sat somewhere between 380 and 390,000 followers, and as of making the video, she has only dropped down to 310,000 followers on Twitch. A significant drop, but she is still by far one of the largest indie VTubers out there, with even the severe damage her reputation took. The bleeding of support has also slowed, as those that despise Cinder's actions left early, and the rate of defectors is dropping daily. At most, I expect her to drop just below 300,000 followers. A great hit indeed, but nothing she cannot recover from. Many of her fans are still quite loyal, and with them still wanting to support her. Plenty of the Pyropups, I'm sure, are willing to forgive her the moment she streams again, and fully believe that Red acted all alone and that Cinder is a victim here too. She will return, and I doubt she will abandon streaming. She will wait for the heat to die down, the memory of her actions to fade, and the internet's attention to be taken by some shiny new controversy before she quietly goes live and her loyal followers rush back to her. Her initial CCV most likely will be cut in half, probably no more than 1 to 1,500. But that is still vastly better than most streamers out there. She'll survive and rise again. But the real damage is not her career. It's her friendships and reputation. The VTuber sphere is not a place you can exist on your own. It's not a vacuum. If you try to go it alone, you will stall and not grow, or fade and disappear, and Cinder no longer has any friends. There is some hope of forgiveness from some of them, Tricky, Vienna, and Yuzu tearfully expressing the hope that she will repent and reform.
Just try to have empathy, try to understand each other, and I want us all to move on from it. And if she does show improvement, please allow her that grace, because I don't know, I always feel like I want the best for others, even when they do hurt me. And maybe maybe other people don't feel that, share that same sentiment, and that's okay, but just don't be mean or evil or spiteful to anyone, okay? Just try to be the best you can.
But they are likely the only ones. Numi and Bao will particularly take an act of great humility on Cinder's behalf before she ever regains their trust, while any potential friendships with Silver and Spite or anyone else outside of the Girly Pops is most likely to never happen. No one will take the chance of being betrayed by her, especially any new artists, as with Nano gone, her primary model artist and mama is no longer working for her. As for Lily, Buff, and the other VTubers, those connections are permanently burned. Lily made that greatly apparent on Twitter, and Buff once again put it very clearly how she felt on the issue.
I always called her a sister. I always was like, hey, you're my sister, and blah, blah, blah. And it just fucking hurts, dude. It just fucking sucks. Can you still like Cinder? Fuck no. I have no room in my heart for her at all. So, fuck no. Guys, this isn't some kind of sitcom where everyone gets upset and they're like, we're friends at the end. No. Maybe when I'm in the retirement home and I fucking forgot your name and then you start talking to me again, then maybe I'll consider.
But only time will tell if I'm right on any of this. Anything is possible. Even the most wicked of people have repented and found forgiveness, so maybe, just maybe, Cinder will too. Maybe she will give up her mean girl ways and become a friend and a streamer that we can all trust and believe in once again. But hey, despite all the suffering that this has caused, at least we got a good meme out of it. Google Talkie! Thanks for watching, everyone. Hope you enjoyed the video. Do you have a favorite streamer or VTuber that you'd like me to do my next video on? Leave a comment suggesting them, and the one that gets the most love, I'll add to the list and start researching them for a future project. And if you want to see me make more of these videos, be sure to like and subscribe, and maybe visit my Twitch, so that one day I can make this my actual job. But until then, this is Koi saying, fare thee well, friends.